Hello and welcome to another episode of Running Between the Wickets with me, Melinda Farrell. Just travelling the world, watching some cricket, and girl from Orange just doing her best, really. It's been a while since the last podcast recording, so apologies for that. It has just been rather hectic, more hectic than I even thought, and also some logistical difficulties that made things challenging as well. The last time I spoke to you, I was still in St. Lucia, and since then I've travelled to Antigua and Barbados for the end of the men's T20 World Cup. I was back in England for a couple of days, and then I was in Germany for a bit over a week for the ICC Men's T20 World Cup Sub-Regional Europe Qualifiers Group B. I think that's right. My goodness, did that take a lot to remember. I kept getting all the words in the wrong order. So I've got to get better at getting them in the right order. So I was doing some commentary there for the ICC and their live stream of that tournament. And then I came straight to Scotland, where I've been doing the ICC Men's Cricket World Cup League 2 matches involving Scotland, Namibia and Oman. So there's been quite a lot of commentary, and I've got another something else coming up in the next couple of days. So I'm hoping that I can bring you Charlie Castle, which is pretty exciting because he took 7 for 1 on debut for Scotland against Oman, which was quite an incredible thing to be on commentary for, alongside the great Andrew Leonard. So hopefully I'll be able to bring you a bit more about him and his story. But it has just been an unbelievably hectic time. I really have had sort of a day off since I've been here, which is really exciting because I hadn't had a day off since May sometime. It has left me quite tired, but that's okay. I was pretty happy that I went to the T20 World Cup, although it was really challenging. Things like flights being cancelled and then it costing me 3 times as much to get a replacement flight. All of those things made it difficult financially as well to just make it all work out. It wasn't really particularly profitable for me in the end. I broke even, maybe made a couple of £100 when I think about all the expenses and add all of those up. So yeah, it was a sort of thing where I think at one point I went for 40 hours without sleep because the games were so late. So I was working through the night, traveling to the next destination and then working through the day. So it was pretty tiring. A few all-nighters in there, not much socialising, and at times quite lonely as well because I was just staying in and working most of the time. Interesting thing too, it was probably the World Cup where there have been the least amount of females in the press box. I know there are more in the commentary box now as there's a little bit more diversity in the game, but the press box remains almost exclusively male, which is fine in that I've got a lot of male friends and I'm very comfortable in male company, and if I wasn't, this would be a really bad industry to be in because it's just still almost completely male, and I found in this World Cup there were fewer females writing about the game than there ever have been. There were a few TV journalists who came from Pakistan and I think one from India for the last couple of matches. But other than that, yeah, it's almost becoming rarer and rarer to see other women in the press box. That was just something I've noticed probably at this World Cup more than most. I don't know if that's the way the industry's going to keep going, but I've only heard of one other woman, I think from Nepal, who was there writing. So interesting trend in the industry. luckily, there was the odd time where I could have a girl chat, which can be a really good thing, a little bit different to some of the boy chats that I end up having. But Ali Mitchell was out there, which was great. So it was nice to have one evening spent with her where we had dinner. I'd hardly went out for dinner at all during the whole tournament. Very expensive place, the Caribbean, and very difficult when the fixtures are all over the place and travel becomes a real issue. So I loved my time there. Didn't really get to enjoy it very much or see anything or do anything. I think I got to the beach maybe 3 times. I went and jumped in the water. But still, it was a great experience to be there for the final. Felt awfully sorry for South Africa in the end, but for India was an amazing achievement. And Germany was also fantastic, and that is kind of the theme of the podcast this time around, because I was in Gelsenkirchen, which is where our fixtures were supposed to be held, but because someone had used the ground for something else at the very last minute, they had to change all the games to Krefeld, which meant that we had a 2-hour round trip every day to commentate on those games. So that is what our interview, this particular podcast, is sort of around. It was with my co-commentator Johnny Barran, who, well, you will find out how we met and how long it's been since we've seen each other. But he's a terrific colleague to have, and it was a wonderful experience too in being able to do those sub-qualifiers. I found it absolutely fascinating. So here's a little chat with Johnny Barran and a bit of insight into the life of another commentator doing some of this cricket madness on the road. Oh, and we saw, if you look up that way, remember to look at the camera.
Oh, right.
Rather than at us.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, there. Okay, yeah. Good point.
It doesn't matter too much, though.
I always find myself on Zoom calls looking at myself.
Yeah, you do. You sort of looking at us like, oh, yeah. Well, one of the best things about being here in Germany at these ICC Men's T20 World Cup Sub-Regional Europe Qualifiers Group B.
You got it. You got it, Mel.
Oh, finally.
You got it.
Has been being here with Johnny Barran.
Wow.
The great Johnny Barran. Well, let's just put into context when we first met.
Cardiff,
of all places, back in 2015, when I had just come over I just joined ESPN Cricinfo, and I'd just come over to spend my first summer in the UK. And my first county match was in Cardiff. Now, why was I in Cardiff? Why were you in Cardiff, Johnny Barran?
I was in Cardiff covering Surrey against Glamorgan. But the reason the world's media were in Cardiff was a certain Kevin Peterson was attempting to make a comeback to England, having been given a tip-off from Colin Graves, who's then chairman of the ECB, that there was a way back for him, having been dropped after the Ashes campaign that winter. And so we all trooped off down to Cardiff to watch Kevin Peterson score lots of runs and get back in the England team. But of course, what actually happened is you didn't get any runs at all. I think Kumar Sangakkara, he could play. he got runs. And then we all ended up in doing karaoke in Tiger.
Yeah, not Kevin Peterson.
Not
and
Kevin Peterson.
Sangakkara.
No.
That would have made it very.
That would have been really good. Really good.
No, there was a heap of us who were out there that night.
Yeah.
And I still remember. I reckon it's the best night out I have ever had during a county championship match.
One of the big ones. Usually. For those, I did 15 years of the county championship, maybe 17, or was it 20? I can't remember. It was a lot, whatever it was. And usually, basically, everything was based a little bit around budget and all-you-can-eat buffets. And I think, but we had a choice of karaoke or the all-you-can-eat buffet. So anyway, we went for karaoke.
It was outstanding.
Yeah,
you were particular, like you could have been a lounge crooner.
I'm not sure. No. I can't hold a note. No, it's not for me. No, it was good fun. I've got a very hazy recollection. So there is a photograph which I was looking for of us all, like a survivor's photo, which again didn't include Kevin Peterson because he didn't survive or make the England team, by the way. Yeah, it was a great night.
It was. Well, give us an idea for those who aren't too sure. You've just mentioned a range of possible years that you were commentating for Surrey.
I may have made up a few more. I may have upsold my. I did a few years. I did my time. I served my time.
How did you get into it?
Actually, Mel, it came Talk Sport. Actually, it was many moons ago, back in 2001, I think. I'd started to work a bit as a presenter, not a very good one, I might add, and just of events and things, as a bit of a sideline to my dreadful PR job that I was doing at the time, trying to market things like tuna and cheese. But anyway, let's not go about.
To be fair, tuna and cheese, great combo.
Yeah, great combo, but not in fast-moving consumer good public relations, which was a little tedious. So I thought, right, actually, and one thing when I used to ring up journalists or whatever, trying to flog them our products and make them write about the rubbish that we were selling. Oh my God. Sorry, John West. But I don't think I'll ever work with John West Tuna again. Or Madewell Cheese. I don't think that even exists, Mel. Brands that have disappeared. Anyway, so I thought, God, how do I get out of this? And people, when I used to ring people up, they used to go, oh my God, you've got a great radio voice. Are you, I thought, oh, okay. Anyway, will you write about our tuna brand? Yeah, anyway. So I started, I remember talking to Ian Collins, who did Creatures of the Night. He's quite an established radio voice in the UK. He's worked at LBC and for TalkSport and various other platforms. He used to have a show called Creatures of the Night on TalkSport, which was between 12 o'clock. He used to go after James Whale, tough act to follow. James Whale might even have gone on till 1, and we were like the 1 till 5 slot. And which you're not allowed to call the graveyard shift. You can't call it the graveyard shift, but it was the graveyard shift. And I would just basically go on as a contributor and would work every week, and that's where I kind of learnt my craft overnight between 1 and 5 in the morning, and until who would come in the morning show? I can't remember. We might even leave a tape running the last hour and get busted occasionally. But it was a great learning curve. It was wonderful, and I used to do sort of, I think, contemporary culture updates, and then actually I got a chance to do some cricket at the very last stage of that. So TalkSport had gone in heavy for the rights for the 2002-03 Ashes, I remember, and then had realised it was in the middle of the night and nobody was going to listen and no advertisers were going to come anywhere near them. So sold them back to the BBC, but still had people to do updates. One of them was me in the studio. It's like, there I was, by day flogging cheese, by night talking about the game I loved.
Talking about cheese.
Talking about cheese, and that's where it all started. And then, a few years later, I kept up. Then I did another contributor role with BBC London, and then, just sort of fell into radio comms. Always passionate about cricket, terrible player, but still play very badly, just loved the game, and then got an opportunity at Surrey via Mark Butcher. That's another story, but we haven't got time for that now. Another time. Really boring, but and that's another music strand. Actually, it's all through music. Actually, bizarrely.
Well, then tell us about that too, because you actually combine your career now as a freelance cricket commentator with a really fascinating career in music.
Well, I work as a music agent for an agency called Neil O'Brien Entertainment, and we look after artists such as UB40 and Paul Weller and various others. And
give us some more names. Come on.
Give us some
more
chance.
Names.
Oh my God!
You have not stopped talking about Simply
Joe
Red.
Bonamassa. Simply Red. I don't represent Simply Red, but I am doing I am producing an event for them coming up. Which I can't really talk about because I'll be shot.
Yeah, no, that's all right. Just dropping the names.
Just dropping the names.
Yeah, that's fine.
But largely, actually, for the jazz artist Joe Stilgo, who I represent Joe, and that's a very, very big part of my world. And as a result, we do lots of stuff overseas, lots of stuff in the UK, and yes, we last month we were on a tour in South Korea and Japan. We're doing this trip to Perth via Singapore and back via the UAE coming up quite soon, which I've been dealing with sort of by the daytime. So yeah, lots of other things in amongst. But cricket is love. Cricket is very much. But it's it's a love, and therefore when they say when you do something you love, Mel, it's like every day is like it doesn't feel like it's been at work sort of thing. That's not always the case. In this game we love. It's quite hard. It is hard. It's hard work, Mel, isn't it? It's hard work. It's great fun, though. It's great fun.
Well, let's talk. We are here in Germany. We're actually in Gelsenkirchen or Gelsenkirchen. I've heard it pronounced both ways.
Cricket's not here.
The cricket's not here. So we're staying like about a 20-minute walk from the ground where we were supposed to be commentating this week. Yeah. But unfortunately,
circumstances beyond everybody's control.
Yes, meant that basically the ground was unfit to host these ICC Men's T20 World Cup sub-regional Europe qualifiers Group B matches.
Twice in a row, you've done really well now.
You have no idea.
If you could get that right in the actual links,
it would be amazing.
No, she has. She's been brilliant.
I have got it every other way around. It's actually really, really difficult. But yeah, so I had the route planned. We're staying next to a lovely park. We were going to leave here at sort of 9 o'clock in the morning, stroll down, stop at a cafe, and reach the ground at 9:30. Unfortunately, where the games are is at Krefeld, which we have to leave an hour beforehand in a car to drive there. So essentially a 2-hour round trip every day. So that's,
to be fair, normal
difficult.
Jobs involve that. Sometimes.
Normal jobs do. It's been actually amazing, hasn't it? Because we've just come across these incredible stories. Yeah. Teams, players from everywhere, from Germany to Croatia. It's just been such a brilliant opportunity to learn about what's happening in cricket in other countries. Yeah,
I think it's my first European qualifier that I've done.
Me too.
And it's been wonderful actually, because I think what every single associate side can see is there is a clear pathway. It's a difficult one, mind, of getting to the big dance. I've used that a few times.
You so love the big dance.
As in the next World Cup competition, and everybody anywhere in the rankings has this opportunity to come through this qualification process. And it's just been, I think, the different teams and the kind of cultural makeup of each team is absolutely incredible. The stories associated with them, and there's some really brilliant cricketers, some brilliant people. And what is a massive leveller is we're playing on an AstroTurf wicket, and playing cricket for any sort of park cricket or Sunday cricket that play on AstroTurf, it is a different game. And actually the technique, the way to play, it is very difficult to stem the flow of runs, and it is, and actually the really caliber players stand up, don't they? Because they don't get whacked around, or they've got the ability to hit the good bowlers for boundaries. But it has been brilliant, and we've been involved in 3 real belters of the game.
We've had the 3 best games.
We've had the thrillers.
We
catch them on ICC TV. Yes. They're all there.
They are all there. We had like a 220 versus 210. This thrilling 218. Sorry, this thrilling encounter between Germany and Sweden, who nearly chased it down. That was a wild call. Yeah. We had Slovenia's first ever ICC win. Yeah. They'd had a couple in a tri-series, but never an ICC event. That was over, I've got to remember that was over Gibraltar. Yes, it was. And then we also had quite an upset, but a thrilling encounter between Norway and Germany, where Germany were favoured to win that group, and Norway pipped them. And they all insisted on having a photo with us afterwards, didn't they, the Norway team?
What can you say? Yeah, all 3 games were brilliant. And yeah, just witnessing the amount of passion and actually the quality a lot of these sides possess. And there is some amazing stories beyond that as well. But overall, I just think it's been a really wonderful experience, and it's been great to witness. And yeah, there's something just quite wonderful about seeing these sides battle away for the opportunity of playing in the next World Cup.
The big dance.
The big dance. I used that on the first day, and literally the first piece of camera, and I thought, am I going to get away with that? So we just dragged me outside, so you've got to actually refer to it by its title.
Oh,
the World Cup.
But it's also, if we talk about the challenges of doing a tournament like this, especially for the first time, when you look at it, there's 140 to 150 players here who we walk in having no idea what they look like. It being really difficult to find out much information out there that you can trust, as I've found to my...
lots of wrong information.
There's lots of wrong information. But, and just not knowing anything about it, not being able to recognise them, not knowing when you walk in how to pronounce their names. It's very different to doing some other tournaments where you actually have a lot more information provided to you. We've had to scrap around to actually find everything. It's been quite challenging in that way, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think once these kind of tournaments get underway, you can plot the narrative. You've got stats to go on. You've got performances. You've got kind of head-to-heads, and there's a wealth of things to talk about. At the very beginning, it's very, very, very difficult because you've got a limited footprint on Cricinfo. There's a little bit of Wikipedia, but we can't really trust that, can we? And there are various other... It is a bit of a journey, and then just recognising the players. But once you get into the game, then everything makes a bit more sense. You can see, I guess a side like Jersey are actually quite established. A lot of their players have been in county pathways. They a lot of the players have played list day and first-class cricket in addition to the T20Is that they have. So, but other sides, Slovenia have much less of a footprint. They've just played 9 T20Is in their existence since 2019. So, and then, the Croatia story, which you unravelled today, was even more fascinating, where they all come from and the background to that team. It's been great to witness how the game is alive and well across Europe.
It is, and it has been fun finding that out, but boy, it sure is. It is difficult, and I feel a pressure too, because it means so much to these players. As you realise, we're talking to some of them today, they are so keen to have their stories told and the story of cricket in their country as well. So I actually feel like there's a real responsibility.
Yeah.
So you want to be able to actually give respect to where they've come from and what they're doing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that's been one of the big factors here, is that people have been really willing to tell us all about the game in their country and where they play and what their expectations are and how they want to sort of perform in the tournament, how they'd like to maybe change things in certain ways. But no, it has been a wonderful voyage of discovery.
What about some of the other tournaments that you've been doing? Because you've been spending some time in the past few years since leaving the Surrey commentary, commentating on teams. Nepal, India, everywhere. Nepal.
Nepal. Well, we both have been out to Nepal. I've worked in Nepal a couple of times. I've worked in India quite a lot, actually. And what's really interesting about India, I'll talk about India first, is that sort of below the IPL, you've obviously got the Ranji Trophy, which is quite an established tournament with hundreds of first-class sides across India. But what every state now is developing a tournament that feels on the scale of the IPL. And bear in mind, you've got a country to satisfy cricket-wise of 1.3 billion. It's quite incredible. So, for instance, I do one in Saurashtra called the Saurashtra Premier League, which is in Rajkot, where England played very recently, of course, in the Test matches. I've also just done one in Madhya Pradesh, Gwalior, which is about a 9-hour overnight sleeper train, not for the faint-hearted. From Delhi, I've been asked to do another one in Bangalore called the Maharaj Premier League, and there's lots of these things cropping up, and it's great because you get to work alongside some wonderful broadcasters, it's still the same production values as something like the IPL or an international. And you get some great crowds along, and what they are is they're feeders. It's where you discover the next players who are going to next sort of be in the next round of the drafts of the IPL. And in some leagues, for instance, the one we did in Madhya Pradesh, you had 6 or 7 players who made quite sort of serious contributions in the last IPL, playing alongside other people who are looking to get contracts. So if you like, it's kind of a talent identification process. Alongside that, you've got people who want to kind of go, look at us, look at our state. This is what we're putting on. And it's all covered on Geo Cinema or Sport 18 or Star Sport. So they're getting quite a bit of leverage and coverage in India. And it's terrific fun. Again, it's quite mind-blowing. It's not dissimilar to an experience like coming in here, where often, I mean, there's a couple of leagues that I've worked in quite extensively, so you know what the players are, but sometimes you're parachuted in, and it's exactly the same process like here. You just kind of, those that have quick info profiles, fantastic, but below that, discovering who they are and what their background is a great deal harder, but great fun.
And Nepal?
Nepal, amazing. Amazing. And, I mean, a country of 38 million, sandwiched in between the 2 biggest countries in the world in terms of India and China, and yet cricket is massive there, and it's got a huge footprint. The games in Kathmandu, if you ever see the internationals in Nepal, get 25,000 every single time, which is incredible, and a lot of the associates don't have that footprint. And then in addition to that, you saw Nepal in the last World Cup when they were playing in Dallas, and the crowds, and Texas as well, the crowds were absolutely incredible, and in the West Indies. And it's like, I think the ICC went, oh, hello, we've got a serious player on our hands that could, they're on the, the curve isn't quite as sharp as Afghanistan, because they started with Afghanistan in Division 5, didn't they, way back in that Jersey tournament in the build-up to the 2011 World Cup. But they are a really, really good side, and an incredible place to go and work. You've been in Bagunj, I've been to Bara and Birat Nagar. I hope I've got those. I mean, my pronunciations are terrible. But yeah, incredible. And they have a sort of a rolling tournament that kind of goes around these centres. And there's loads of cricket, and it's fantastic. And you can see these, and there's a lot of talent, and playing with very limited facilities, very limited resources. And yet, yeah, it's amazing to see the development of that nation firsthand.
I mean, these are all the things that you love about it. What's the hard stuff? I've been quite honest with them, trying to be quite honest on this podcast about the difference between what this lifestyle looks like from the outside.
The Instagram post.
Yeah,
nothing like Instagram.
The jazz hands that we put up. What are the things that are really challenging? We've spoken a bit about the difficulty of getting information, but what's different to what people see?
I think I found myself in a crossroads where I could probably do this full time if I wanted to, in terms of the work I potentially turned down, and the work I could do. But much as I love it, I've got a young family. Being away from home is difficult. I've got work pressures as well. Neil, if you're watching this, please let me keep travelling. And it is difficult juggling everything. Often you accept one offer of something, and then, as often happens in cricket, 2 really big things come in that you can't do as a result. And it can be really tough. The schedule's quite hard work. Often, if there's a little bit of weather involved in certain things, you'll have games rescheduled. So you might have 3 in a day. Potentially, we have 2 in a day here. You're in different places, often quite antisocial hours. You'll be finishing at midnight, 1 o'clock, because that's the TV schedule. Have games that start at 7:30. I mean, it's tiny violin stuff. It really is. It's first world problems, traveling the world, doing the thing I've always wanted to do. But it is, it's not all. You see, some of the guys who move around in the ICC, in the top echelons of the ICC circuits and the IPL and stuff, and that is it's not a dissimilar animal. But it's, when you're on, I've always described myself as a sort of journeyman broadcaster that goes to frontiers, where nobody else will go, if you like. But it's not quite the same. But no, it's a nice sort of romantic ideal. It can be tough. It can be quite lonely. Language, food is a problem, especially with a gluten intolerance and dairy. And in India, it's just like Russian roulette sometimes. You just don't know. It's like, I'm thinking, now, what is that? Is that a potato or is that bread? What? We are looked after incredibly. And it is such a privilege, but it can be, being away for long periods of time, I think. And actually, to be fair, I mean, back in the days when tours were like 3-4 months or whatever, often it's a whistle-stop things of 10 to 15 days, but it's still a bit of a footprint away from, my sort of relatively sort of a bit more conventional life in the UK.
And it is mentally exhausting, isn't it, when especially tournaments like this, well, you and I have... Oh my gosh, we've come back after 2 games and we're absolutely exhausted hard. Because...
7 a.m. call time, admittedly, when most ordinary people, normal people are going out to work.
Yes.
but it's different. Yeah, it's hard. Being on camera.
And having to talk the whole way through. Yeah. And just the fact that tournaments like this where you have to do so much of the prep yourself, you have to find so much of the information. It's you
nothing arriving on an iPad.
No, and just the sort of mental strain of constantly trying to concentrate and recognise when a player is over the other side. Who is that? We're scrambling around numbers to go, who is that? We're waiting for them to turn around so that we can get a glimpse of the number on their back so we can work out who's just taken a catch. So it's mentally... I think it's really fatiguing, isn't it? Yeah,
it is definitely hard work, and one thing, no day is the same, but often that's because you encounter challenges on a day-by-day basis. But it is cricket at the sharp end, and it's wonderful on the one hand, and I have got people who go, why do you do this again? I said, because I love the game, I think. And it is fun. Sometimes you do question it and you think, God, if I just lived a conventional life, actually stayed in my own bed, because I travel both in my other role as well. So and I've always thought actually, Mel, that if my cricket commentary could just be in like Q1 and Q4. So October, November, December, good months. Definitely want to be away then. And then January, February, March, very happy to do the Cayman Islands 4-week international or whatever. But when it's in the summer, when there's so much going on in the UK that
and you've got kids.
And you've got kids, it's like you do think, actually, do I need to do this? Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
But fundamentally, it's because we love the silly game, and it is a silly game, isn't it? It is a silly game, but we love it. We absolutely love it.
We do. We wouldn't be doing it otherwise. Have you had some absolutely ridiculous experiences where you've gone, I can't believe that this is happening when you've been commentating on cricket? Yeah,
I think some of the ones in Nepal last time were really funny, and I did a kind of slightly bloopers. I've got like my alternative Instagram feed, which I share in WhatsApp groups. And there was hysterical ones, just little ones, like you're halfway through a post-match presentation, and then the lead just drops from the mic, and you're stood there, and you've got to literally grab the thing off the floor, plug it back in, keep a straight face, and go back. Oh right, okay, back we are. Little things like that. I remember on the same experience, seeing them try to get the sponsors board into a press conference where there wasn't anybody in the press conference, and they were trying to shoehorn this thing through, and they couldn't get it in. So we had a press conference, me standing in with the sponsors board half through and half out of the window behind me, with nobody in there anyway, but I still had to do it, to announce the fact that it was me that was commentating on the event. I mean, like nobody, by the way. So, I mean, the whole thing was ridiculous. And there were other ones, there's a load of, I think my favourite was a 3-question interview where I got 4 words in total answered. So the first question, brilliant, you must be really pleased, what a fantastic game that was, and you're looking so good with the bat. And he nodded like that, went, nice! And then it was like, brilliant win, you're going to go on, looking to go 2-2 today. And he went, good. And then there was something else. And it's just like moments like that, it's just hilarious. But often they're travelling. I think, when I first got to Liverpool for the first time, I remember I I think it cost a bit of a cost-saving exercise, Mel. So it was bus for me from Kathmandu to Barawa, and I got a lift for the Malaysian cricket team, bless them, who were there for a Tri-Nation and coming onto this tournament that we were doing. And it was like, they said 6 hours, but yeah, maybe 12 if we're unlucky. And it was 12. And the roads just gradually, everybody travels everywhere in Nepal by plane because the roads don't really exist. It's like they're like buses. Well, we were on the only bus going there. And that was funny. And they did karaoke all the way through the whole thing. And they had a card school going on. And it was great. I thought, well, it was first thing I'd done abroad after COVID. And it was like, okay, this is good. So that was bizarre.
It all comes back to karaoke.
It all comes back to karaoke now. But it is fun. It is funny. And then, sometimes some of the hotels are interesting, aren't they? Where it's like a bucket as opposed to a bath or a shower. But that's okay. Again, tiny violins, we can do this. But yeah, I think often there's always something ridiculous going on.
Well, my favourite from Nepal was the post-match presentation for the final of the Pro Club Championships, and I was going through, there were so many things to announce, so many tokens of love.
Very important, the tokens of love.
And
all the umpires get those, don't they? And all the match officials.
I got my own token of love.
Did you?
Yes.
So you awarded your own token of love to yourself?
Yes, and I got self-love. I came back with at least 3 tokens of love. It was a really lovely gesture. But when I had to present, I think it was the award for the most sixes, I announced the player. It turned out the player had left. And I'm standing there in the middle sort of saying, have we got so-and-so here? And this is going live on TV in Nepal. And eventually I see someone shove this guy in the back and he fell into the camera shot and looked around him like a rabbit in the headlines. And I looked at him and he came up, walked over to accept the award. And it was the barman from our hotel, Dilip G. And I had to announce, accepting the award for the most sixes is Dilip G, who's been a very good friend of ours all week. He'd been making me hot toddies for my sore throat.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
Amazing. So you kind of just have to roll with all the things that might go wrong or not to plan. Don't you? You have to be really flexible.
Yeah, and I think you have to take a breath sometimes and just accept that there are things beyond your control and that's just that. And tomorrow's another day. But there's sometimes when you come out of it and think, oh my God, how did that happen? But sometimes I find myself pinching myself where you find yourself in a stadium full of 20,000 people and you're going live out on the toss and you're walking out there and thinking, how does this compare to being at sort of Grace Road for day 4 versus Northampton. Not that I'm belittling the county game, which is absolutely amazing, but it is that, it's amazing when you're in these environments, where it's such a visceral experience that, compared to the nice, cosy environment of something like county cricket, it is, it's incredible. It's, but it's bizarre and extraordinary and seldom ordinary.
Certainly not. And I think, for us, as coming back full circle, I think we should maybe go for some karaoke tonight, but because it feels like it all comes back to that. But I think for both of us...
Not the 7 a.m. alarm call tomorrow,
No, 6 a.m. alarm
6 a.m. alarm call. Again, normal people do that.
Yeah, that's right. That's very true. Yeah. But I think for both of us, we're suddenly thinking, gosh, this is actually really cool.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of fun to be had here, and it's quite rewarding. So I think both of us would love to do do quite a bit more associate cricket, right?
I think it's great. I think what often you can get trapped in is when you're because the schedule's quite hard work. Sometimes you can think, when's it over? Or how many of these games can I get through while keeping my professional reputation intact? And that is the wrong mindset. Sorry, my phone's... Somebody wants to get hold of me now. I'm going to stop. I'm going to turn that off.
It'll be the 180 messages from the ground.
From the ground.
A game still going on.
Yeah. But I think what actually is so important is to try and stay in the moment and actually not look at when am I travelling back or whatever and because sometimes you think, oh, you're just getting through the churn of the tournament sometimes, but actually you've got to take a step. I mean, I think 2 weeks ago, I arrived in Delhi I think at 5 to midnight on Sunday night, and at 6 a.m. the following morning, I was at the Taj Mahal, and I was thinking, in my days of selling tuna and cheese, I definitely would not have been being at the time. And you had to, and then the Red Fort in the background and everything, and you're thinking, oh my God, what an unbelievable privilege. Or, you told me about your experience of waking up in the foothills of the Himalayas, being out in Nepal. And
New Year's Day. Yeah. I watched the sunrise over the Himalayas on New Year's Day. What a way to start the year.
Yeah.
Incredible.
I think I was very lucky to be in Zimbabwe and be on safari when I was out there covering the Zimbabwe Netherlands and thinking, oh my God, I've travelled, to another continent. I'm doing the game I love with a hugely engaged audience, and then next minute you're out in the wild with elephants and stuff. It is incredible. I think the most important thing is don't get sort of churned down by the schedules. Is to try and live it and try and break out of it and try and do as much as you possibly can. Yeah. To kind of have fun and see the country and all that kind of thing.
Well, there's something's going on somewhere.
Yeah.
There's a siren. But and I think we're doing that. Look, it's been such a great thing to be here. We've actually had a wonderful time catching up over dinner at night.
Yeah.
Here and great fun commentating together.
Great fun.
It's been
more, please. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
More ICC events.
If you're listening, and you're with the ICC, we quite like
the more exotic locations, the better. Very happy. Europe's very fun. We're very happy there.
Yeah.
Where there's some good hotspots coming up, aren't there?
There are some very good hotspots.
Some really nice hotspots.
We'd love to go. I'm going to Guernsey's my
You're going to go.
next one.
Guernsey will be amazing.
Guernsey will be amazing.
Beautiful island.
Yeah. But I
great cricket.
Very much hope that it won't take another 9 years for us to reconnect again.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much for joining me.
Well, Mel, it's been a pleasure. And I've got one more day to go. You've got 2, I've got 1.
I'm totally
If it doesn't rain.
If it doesn't
Don't rain.
No,
rain
don't
today. It rains today.
It's going to be okay tomorrow. It's going to be lovely on Sunday.
Yeah.
But I don't care. I am going to drag you out for some karaoke right now.
Fine. Okay.
Right. So that was the great man, Johnny Barran. It was fantastic to spend that week in his company in Gelsenkirchen, of all places. I think that's how you say it. I've heard Gelsenkirchen and Gelsenkirchen, but I think it's Gelsenkirchen. Apologies if I got that wrong. My German's not that great. But now, yes, here in Scotland, I don't have a lot of questions for you this week because it's been quite a while since I asked for them. So if you do have any questions, please do just send them YouTube, on Instagram, on Twitter, however you want, but try and use the hashtag Running Between the Wickets because it does make it much easier for me to find them, particularly if it's down the track. But it's one from Rocket Nitro 1992, sent via Twitter, who asked, are you planning to cover the Women's T20 World Cup in Bangladesh, or has any organisation approached you for that? It's just a really interesting one because I've been thinking about that a lot recently, partly because obviously the situation in Bangladesh has become more unstable and there are travel warnings from several different governments, including the UK, Australia, US, have been looking through all of that because of the unrest there and the protests. I'm really undecided about the Women's World Cup. At the moment, I'm inclined not to go. I have been approached by one organisation about doing some work there, and I've had a suggestion about another organisation that apparently might be interested. The thing is, if I go to Bangladesh, I don't want to be doing it on the cheap as far as staying in, hotels that aren't necessarily going to be particularly comfortable at a time when things are a bit unstable in the country. I have never been to Bangladesh, so I don't have any local knowledge at all. I wouldn't be that worried about my safety, to be honest. I've travelled in a lot of different countries, and I'm a pretty savvy traveller. I rarely had any problems with safety. I guess the thing with this one is at the moment they're saying, the travel advisories are saying that insurance may not be valid if you decide to go while there's this instability in the country. So that does concern me in not being able to get travel insurance. And also the fact that I wouldn't have an organisation that I could fall back on for support, because if I'm freelancing, no one takes responsibility for me. So if I did run into any issues, then I'm on my own. So I'm not sure if it's really worthwhile me going. I know others who aren't going, who would normally cover a Women's World Cup. And also, I'm not quite sure if I can face doing another tournament the way I did the Men's T20 World Cup quite recently. I don't know if I can handle that twice in a year, because it took a huge amount out of me and I was just so exhausted afterwards. So I'm kind of tossing it up. I don't know at this stage. I would think I would only do it if there was enough work guaranteed that I knew I was going to make enough money that I could do it comfortably, and that also I would make a decent profit from it. I'm not sure if there's the demand out there, which would be sad, but it's just I've just got to think of myself really and be quite selfish about it. These are all the things that I'm mulling at the moment. I need to get myself out to Australia, so it would be really good if I could get something somewhere in sort of October, November, around then, that gets me kind of halfway, and then I can go the rest of the way back to Australia for the summer. But at this stage, I don't know. So it's hard, isn't it? Well, it is. I think it is. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm yet to decide. Now, as I said earlier, I'm hoping that I can catch up with Charlie Castle for the next episode of Running Between the Wickets. So please do look out for that one, because he's got a really great story, and it was actually quite special to be there when he took his seventh on his debut as well. So until now, it's goodbye from me as I keep going running between the wickets. I hope wherever you are in the world, you're enjoying your cricket just as much as I am. I'll see you soon.